All right, hi, Ryan Pruitt, typical white guy here. We're back with more Trump impeachment news. As always, in case this is your first time joining us, cats will be walking through. We roll with it, we deal with it. It's very hard. I get 15 minutes to do these, and cats walk through. There's just only so much you can do in 15 minutes. It's amazing how fast it goes. I try to narrow down what I'm talking about, but I just end up on all different routes. So I was trying to do I'm just going to do the timeline of events. I think I have it up there. I got the Rudy part up there, but the overall timeline is once upon a time, there's a country called Ukraine. And there was an ambassador there doing a good job, or, doing her job and no complaints and get along with everybody, and named Marie Yovanovitch. And all of a sudden, President Trump, apparently, even though he never met her, I think he said he never met her, all of a sudden she's told she's got to go. And no reason, a year early, you're out of your post, we're going to put in someone new. Then you have Congress passes a funding bill for military aid to go to Ukraine. So now you have a new ambassador you have an envoy. So now in Ukraine, you have a new ambassador. You have an envoy named Kurt Volker. And you have, for whatever reason, the ambassador to the European Union, what's his name there? Gordon Sondland, who was a political appointee, he owned a chain of hotels in Portland, donated $1 million to the Trump inauguration campaign committee. Therefore, boom, he's qualified to be ambassador to the European Union. But for some reason now, he's the point person involved in Ukraine. Meanwhile, at the Department of Defense, State Department, National Security Council, you have professional, i.e. the deep state, who are doing their jobs of serving the national interest, of talking to Ukraine, of coordinating efforts, who, with these kind of funding bills, they're the people that give the reports to Congress of, hey, this is what Ukraine needs, this is why they need it, this is how they're going to use it, this is why the money is worth being spent. They know the details. They know the people involved. I never have looked up when the funds were approved. It was probably around the same time that Yovanovitch was let go, probably February, March 2019. But the money was never released. Witnesses are now coming forward from the DOD, from the State Department, from the NSC, that through June, July, make it very clear that that the president himself is the one saying we are not funding them yet. And there, as Nick Mulvaney said at the press conference, there were three reasons, not two, three reasons that President Trump was directly withholding the congressionally approved aid to Ukraine. He was worried about corruption within Ukraine. Okay. He felt it unfair that other countries in the alliance and NATO had not been paying their fair share to Ukraine, which one, apparently wasn't true. Second of all, Ukraine is at war. They're in the middle of a war. Part of their land had already been taken by Russia. They are being shot at by Russia. They need arms to defend themselves against Russia. If you're part of a community fire department and it's a fire and you're supposed to have, 5 people on the truck and only 3 show up, the 3 of you go and fight the fire. You do your part. And now listen, this is all politically, a political argument. As far as I can tell, for those first two reasons, the president is somewhat entitled. Well, no, we'll black and white. We'll black and white it. He is allowed to withhold aid for those first two reasons: concern about corruption within the country, fairness in terms of other countries not paying their share. But I'm pretty sure that there's some kind of process by which the president has to report to Congress through the DOD or State Department. Here's why we are withholding the money. I'm going to go on a limb and say he didn't do any of that, because there was a third reason that the money was being withheld. And even if you're doing something and there's two good reasons to do it, and then as president there's a third personal reason to do it, a personal political advantage to it, that's when, and listen, I mean, President Trump has a history of not liking the term recusing. He blames Jeff Sessions for recusing. He does not, the idea of someone else not using their power, especially when it's to his advantage, when they could, blows his mind. There's absolutely no way that President Trump is going to not do something that he can do to help himself. He can't stay out of anything. Anything, apparently. I mean, he watches Twitter. I mean, he gets involved in every, and he even said he's his own Secretary of State, his own Secretary of Defense, his own spokesman, his own Chief of Staff. He speaks for him. You know, he said working for him is one of the easiest things to do because he makes all the decisions. Absolutely 100% agree with him. So he made the phone call. Oh, yeah, because the third reason, yeah. I'm sorry, I just lost my train for a second. He has said now, and he said, hey, so then July 25th happens. He releases the phone call, or he makes the phone call. And he later releases the transcript because in his mind, it's perfect. He sees nothing wrong with it. Lindsey Graham, just the other day, said, I read the transcript. I don't see anything wrong with it. I do think Lindsey Graham knows better. And as President Trump has said, he knew other people were on the line. He knew better, and he knew he didn't have to do the whole thing at once. The phone call itself is the tip of the iceberg. It's not, see, to me, personally, there's illegal aspects to it just within the release part of the phone call. His problem is, one, that's not the whole phone call, apparently. Two, and again, that's not the only action. It didn't take place in a vacuum. You have these witnesses coming forward talking about the actions that took place before the phone call that set the stage for this. You have outright Sondland, the ambassador to the EU, who is the point person for the Ukraine issue. And apparently also you have the chief of staff, who also, I believe, still leads the OMB, he was the head OMB that controls the money. You have both Mulvaney and Sondland not only saying, yes, we are withholding the money, but also we're doing this at the direction of the president. And C, we're doing this not for just those first two reasons. We're withholding the money because we want Ukraine to do something specifically for the benefit and personal gain of the president in the upcoming, that will benefit him in the upcoming election, however. So that'll happen before the phone call. Then you have the phone call. And then after the phone call. Now, if you truly thought it was a perfect phone call and you haven't done anything wrong before, then why after do you hide the transcript? Not only not release the transcript, because you don't have to release every single transcript, but you put an unclassified readout into a classified server. Why afterwards do you still not give the money? Why do you not give the money until September 11th, which is in because the money had to be given by the beginning of October, or it expires, the deal expires, and then there would have been questions about why did you never give the money? And because the pressure had already gone up, there was already by September there was already, the media was already starting to pick up, wait, why hasn't this money gone to the Ukrainians that was approved 7-8 months ago? The money was released finally to the Ukrainians on September 11th, September 12th. That same day, or within that same 24-hour period, John Bolton fired/quit as National Security Advisor. And these witnesses, several of them, Fiona Hill, I think she was the big one. She was the one that really had the great quotes from Bolton that described this as a drug deal, that he would not be a part of it, that he described Rudy Giuliani as a hand grenade that would go off eventually in the White House. He was the one that in the July 10th meeting, when Sondland brought up, hey, because he's getting pressure from Trump, he's the one that blurted out, look, before we go any further with this Ukraine aid stuff, we need to confirm from them that they're going to do these investigations. At which point, apparently, Bolton knew that's a problem and cut the meeting short, or ended the meeting and said, whoa, we're out of bounds here. And, I was thinking today about George W. Bush, because, when Clinton got impeached and had his special counsel pretty much throughout his presidency, I remember thinking, is this how it's going to be now? Is every president going to come in and, okay, you're inaugurated, well, here's your special counsel who will be up your butt your entire presidency? President Bush, for all that he did that I didn't agree with, for as much as he pushed the bounds of what the president is allowed to do, impeachment never came up with him, because maybe because of his dad, maybe it's that simple, but the shame, the personal shame that I think George W. Bush would have felt of even that idea that he had gone so far that impeachment was a possibility, he would never go there. And maybe because too, his family, his background, and he was so confident in his own process and his own people, he didn't care who he was running against in 2004. He felt no need to sacrifice the whole thing in order to gain an edge in an upcoming election. It would have never been worth it to him. But that's all President Trump knows. All he knows is get what I want. When George Stephanopoulos asked him about, hypothetically, would you accept foreign aid? Or would you report it to the FBI? He said, quite honestly, I think I would do both. Well, no kidding. That's what you'd like to be, both the good guy and get the edge. But that's not how this works. It's not.